Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome back to the Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon. Doing the job the American media maggots won't. Fundamentally changing America, one diaper at a time. Here is, courtesy of the SHR Media Network, the Bloviating Zeppelin.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubble.
Well. What do we have here? Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to the Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show, live and direct right here on the SHR Media. The sumptuous and palatial and resplendent, let's not forget resplendent, SHR Media Studios, where I am broadcasting behind enemy lines in occupied California, 2 miles east of the locus of evil on the entire left coast. The Bill Mill, the Capitol Building at 10th and L Street, downtown in Sacramento, California, where late at night you can hear the death wails of common sense. And you can also smell the odoriferous stench of sulfur and brimstone. You got a belly up to the bar. We've kept your seat. It's great to see you back. Tonight is Thursday night, August 8th. 8/8/19. Like I talked last night on the Sackheads, it's Heil Hitler Day as far as leftists are concerned for President Trump. I got to tell you this also. Angel is going to be your bartenderess tonight. She pours with the best of them, and the lava lamp is, in fact, lighted too. Let's see, my right, your left, if you're watching. That means you can listen and chat at shrmedia.com. Watch the show on the SHR Media Facebook page and YouTube channel. And I also got to tell you this. We don't water our drinks just like we don't water our conversation. Politics, religion, crime, culture, economics, race, sex, science, law. We talk about it all right here in the saloon. Nothing is sacred. The speech is free, but the booze is not all we ask. And it's very, very simple. All we ask is that you flush the toilet, jiggle the damn handle, and don't forget to tip your waitress. Tonight, we're going to get a little bit more into the weeds than we have in some time. This is a very unique guest, and it'll be a little bit more ethereal and a little bit more philosophical than things have been in the past. I'm kind of pushing specific politics aside for a while for the first hour. I'll do it in the second hour. There's time enough for yelling and screaming and breastfeeding, etc. We'll get to that because, OMG, are there some very interesting things that occurred just today, as I've said for quite some time. I like to have new and unique guests on the show, and I find many of them on the internet through social media. And people say, well, social media is terrible. Well, in a great way it is. We can discuss that. I don't know, maybe we'll discuss that tonight for a little bit. But I found this individual who is a libertarian. And I thought, hey, that's a discussion. That's a very unique and interesting discussion for today, for tonight. So the gentleman's name is DANA THURSTON. And we've corresponded back and forth on social media and through emails. And we agreed upon this day. He signed the standard contract, which includes no brown M&Ms in the green room. So once we signed that off and he was cut a check for a ridiculous amount of money, he acquiesced to being here tonight. So for the first hour, we're going to talk about libertarianism. And this cat turned me on to some interesting things, including the Nolan chart, a really interesting article that we'll be talking about the political spectrum. And of course, we'll be talking about libertarians. Now, this should be prefaced with the fact that I've been to Freedom Fest with the SHR Media Network owners. Let's see, I went in 2016 and 2017. We couldn't make it in 2018, and we're not going to make it this year. It's already been in any event. But Freedom Fest is a collective of libertarians over the past, I don't know, it goes for five or 4 days, something like that. Customarily, it's in Las Vegas. It's a bunch of free-thinking individuals, primarily libertarians, and there are lots of discussions, etc. We had a booth there. We talked to all sorts of great people, Steve Forbes, George Foreman, Larry Elder. I spoke to the guy and also had him on the show, the guy who is the executive director of the Saul Alinsky Institute. That was a cool cat to talk to. That's where I also found Lily Tang Williams, who was, as a child, grew up in communist China under Mao, and I got to have her back on the show. I found a lot of cool people. And so I believe that tonight Dana Thurston is likewise a really cool person, and he is next up to bat. So thanks for being here, Dana Thurston. I greatly appreciate it, and welcome to the saloon.
Thank you very much, sir. It's my pleasure. Kind of weird. I hope I represent the libertarians in a positive light.
Well, that's all up to discussion. And the other thing is that I think is really cool is that you have said, yes, if folks are interested in calling, that you can call and we can have a discussion. So just as with any of my callers, be kind, be polite. No, I'm not talking to you, Dana. I'm talking to the folks that may call in, because there are some people here who may be on the right. But the other thing that's really cool is depending on who shows up or who is in the chat room, and already got a bunch of people in the chat room. So welcome to Mike, welcome to John, welcome to the Alaskan, welcome to Mary Brockman, and welcome to one viewer who will not be unmasked by me. I'm not the U.S. government. I do not unmask people. So welcome to one viewer. I appreciate that for being here. So tonight will be what I consider to be a very interesting discussion. First off, though, I have to say, and we spoke before the show. You called early, and we chatted a little bit. I have to say and acknowledge this publicly. Most of the people that call into the show that I have as guests hail from the East Coast. Why that is, I don't know. Maybe most of the talent is on the East Coast. There you go. That's what I think. Okay, the talent pool is grandly expanded on the East Coast, and there ain't so many great people on the left coast, apparently. But having said that, thank you very much for staying up so late tonight, because it's 8:09 on the left coast, and it's 11:09 on the right coast. So, Dana, thank you very much for that, sir.
You're welcome. Well, the Phillies are on, so that's keeping me good. They're playing out in San Francisco. So.
Oh, okay. All right. So let's start at the start. I found you on social media. I know a little bit about you, so I don't know, maybe for the next 5 minutes or so, let's talk a little bit about your background, where you were raised. I think you said that you're in Massachusetts right now. I don't need to know, the town or anything like that, but where were you born? Educated? Did you do any military? What kind of education did you get? Because that kind of leads me into other questions, and then I kind of tie this all together. So a little bit about your background, Dana Thurston.
I was born in West Hartford, Connecticut.
Okay.
So people can find out where you are. Then we moved to Cherry Hill, New Jersey, where I grew up through high school. And then I went to Boston University and took my degree in English literature.
Uh-huh.
Then I bartended for about 5 years until I had cigarettes flicked in my face and spat on, and I went to computer school and became a programmer.
Ah, excellent.
Yep.
I've said also for quite some time that doing something like that, bartending or doing jobs where there's service, like I started as a waiter job. Man, that wakes you up. That wakes you up in terms of the public. So you became a computer programmer, and then it seems to me that you kind of went on the creative side too, because you play music, or you were in a band. Is that correct?
Yep, I was in a band we played reggae, ska, and rocksteady. Played for 23 years. The name of the band was the Allstonians. We got to tour Europe. We got to tour the States, but we just missed it. They picked, believe this or not, and a lot of people probably say I'm full of it, but it was kind of between the Bosstones and the Allstonians for what they were going to choose back then. And we all wore black suits and black ties on stage and had a very dark sense of humor. And I think the Bosstones were more entertaining for how the music industry wanted to go.
Ah, son of a bitch. It's like,
exactly.
I was this close. I was this close.
I'm just getting over the bitterness now.
Hello, bitter. Table for one over here in this dark, gloomy corner, please. Don't ask any questions.
I would, if anyone could do it, because we had over, I think, 100 members in the band over the years.
Holy crap.
Yeah, we had people in. I think we had 5 different drummers, 6 different bass players. We just there were a core of 3 of us that just kept going.
How many people were in the band itself when you would play a gig?
8.
Oh, okay. So you had a lot of brass?
We had 4 horns, bass, guitar, keys, which I was on, and drums.
Wow. Okay. My only claim to fame in terms of music, I may have said this a while ago. I don't know if people remember this or not. I used to record music. I used to be in the recording business when I was at KFBK, and I was in radio and whatnot a long time ago. And I went to Glasgow, Scotland to record Status Quo, which was basically a rock band, kind of a boogie-woogie band. And in the process of recording there, I happened to meet Bon Scott, the first lead singer for AC/DC, and I also met Geezer Butler, the bass player with Black Sabbath, 2 almost completely disparate individuals who, for whatever reason, congealed there at that concert, and I met him backstage. So that's my claim to fame in music, and it ain't that much. But there you go. I've always been a rock guy.
Status Quo was huge.
Oh, Status Quo.
What was their hit?
Nobody knows who they are. The only thing people know about Status Quo is pictures of Matchstick Men from the 60s.
Yep.
But what they're known for now is they are great kick-ass boogie-woogie blues. Man, they are fabulous. A bunch of old geezers now, just like me, and they are fabulous. So thanks for having been in the music industry. You are a well-rounded individual, apparently.
You could say so.
Okay.
You have to. I think everyone should be curious about everything.
Yeah.
The English literature, and as a matter of fact, if you want to go further, I concentrated in Arthurian myth and Icelandic sagas when I was taking my degree.
Ah, okay. That sounds pretty cool, too. I got
fantastic.
2 degrees, one in communication studies, which went to broadcasting, and then, of course, I kicked that to the curb and went into law enforcement, and then I also have a degree in English, which did serve me well, I must say. But enough about me. What about you? This all, then, served to assemble something within you that made you want to be a libertarian. So somehow all of these things in life informed your decision that in terms of a political party. Well, first let me ask the obvious. Are you a registered libertarian?
I'm registered independent. Or what do we call it in Massachusetts? I'm unaffiliated.
Okay. All right. I used to be a Republican. I'm now an independent as well, for a wide variety of reasons. So
right.
What appealed to you initially about the Libertarian Party?
Do you know something? It started when I was really young. My grandfather put it in my head because he was a huge Barry Goldwater supporter.
Okay.
So, you know what? I think he started whispering those things in my ear. Then, to tell you the truth, it really kicked off in high school when I started reading Robert Heinlein.
Okay. All right. I read tons of his stuff.
Yes, huge libertarian. And a lot of people don't realize, but Heinlein was just absolutely fanatical about this kind of stuff. And like you, he was also very pro-military in a very big way.
Yeah, a lot of his novels were, Starship Troopers, for one, obviously, was very militaristic in nature.
Right. So So he was not, I think Heinlein understood the fine line between being fully pure libertarian and having to deal with the rest of the world. So, after that, I didn't really think about it. I didn't, in my voting history, I always went third party. I went Ross Perot. I went Ralph Nader the next time because there was no one anywhere. It was just like, I'm not going to buy into, and this word might tick people off, I wouldn't buy into the duopoly that they set up in the United States.
Okay. All right. So, I have the Libertarian Party website up here. But before I go into that and before I ask you another question, because I'm going to ask you, and I'm not going to try to pin you down per se as to defining. I'm not going to say that you're responsible for defining the Libertarian Party. What I'm going to do is play about a 3-minute cut, and this cut allegedly in audio sums up what the Libertarian Party is. When it's finished, I'd like to ask you what you think of that, and is that an accurate reflection of the Libertarian Party to you? And then we'll go on and maybe delve a little bit deeper into what the Libertarian Party actually means to you and what it should mean to other people. So basically, this audio cut is, what is libertarianism?
What is it to be a libertarian? Well, first of all, I would say that being a libertarian does not involve any kind of substantive moral commitment. Libertarianism is essentially a political doctrine. It's a doctrine about the nature of human beings, the nature of human society, and the kind of human society that is most conducive to human flourishing.
This is Stephen Davies, PhD.
Libertarians believe that the most important thing in life is human flourishing, human well-being, human happiness, if you will. They also argue that human beings are ultimately autonomous, self-defined, choosing individuals, and that the kind of social order which is most conducive to the widest and most diverse range of human flourishing is one in which the role of power and government is kept to the minimum. Now, this does not mean, however, that they need to support a particular moral code or anything like that. It's perfectly possible for someone who is a traditional Christian, someone who is a complete atheist, to both be libertarian in the way that I've just described. What does this mean for certain particular policy issues? Are there any kind of specific major questions of politics that really you have to take a certain position on if you're to be a consistent libertarian? There are a few, certainly. It's certainly the case, for example, that you have to support free markets, you have to support free trade, you have to support the free movement of people, you have to support free speech, you have to support constitutional and limited government, you have to be opposed to coercive paternalism and things of that sort. However, there are a number of policy positions where it's not clear what exactly you have to believe if you're to be a consistent and principled libertarian. In foreign policy, for example, many libertarians think that the consistent position is to be a non-interventionist, but in fact I think it's perfectly possible to be a libertarian and to advocate a more interventionist foreign policy. That's not my own view, but I don't think that those who have it are ipso facto not libertarians. Another is abortion, where I think it's perfectly possible for consistent and sincere libertarians to be either pro or opposed to that particular policy option. The fact that libertarians can hold opposed views on a wide range of policy issues is an indication that this is not a cult or some kind of rigid creed, but rather a diverse and complex philosophy in which a whole number of positions can be held by people who share certain essential underlying presumptions and beliefs. And it's also a sign of intellectual vitality and the continuing evolution of the ideas. There are two responses you can make to the accusation that libertarianism is a politically irrelevant creed which condemns you to complete lack of importance for politics. The first is the one that economists make, which is that as a single voter, you are already completely irrelevant to the political process. The chance that your vote is actually going to have any effect upon the process or be decisive in any way is minimal. You've probably got a greater chance of winning the lottery. And therefore, you should simply be what you believe and vote the way you believe as well. The other thing is this. Political positions or sets of beliefs that are marginalized or held by only a small number of people in given times are not condemned to remain that way. The evidence of history is that it is possible for small but dedicated and organized groups of people to have a disproportionately large effect upon the political process and upon public debate. And there are many, many examples of this. And I think that that's what you should always hold to if you're a libertarian or indeed a member of any unpopular political persuasion.
Okay, so 3 minutes and 54 seconds of what that gentleman thinks a libertarian consists of. So, Dana Thurston, your thoughts about his thoughts. Does he nail it in some fashion?
You're in luck, because I'm the only real libertarian, which that's an inside joke for the nutcases on who inhabit our world on Twitter. He gets it really close. He really does.
Okay.
And I appreciate the fact that he says there's no binding belief that you have to hold strictly to be a libertarian, because the spectrum is huge, and even libertarians on Twitter that I speak to on a daily basis, there will be vehement disagreements, which the tweet stream can go on for 3 or 4 days, and you're still getting notifications. And the arguments are absolutely astounding. There's no vitriol. Every once in a while there's vitriol, but those people are usually ushered out of the conversation. But they go on forever, and it's fascinating. And this is where you get into all the philosophies that people read to reach their state of libertarianism. The most important one is the non-aggression pact.
Okay.
That is number one. Do no harm.
Okay, well, that used to be applicable to Google, but it's the furthest thing from Google's mind these days. Anyway, having said that, so it sounds to me, and Dana Thurston, correct me if I'm wrong, it sounds to me as though libertarianism, as espoused by libertarians, is vast and wide, encompassing freedom, but there can be any number of libertarians along the spectrum. So, do no harm is a prevailing philosophy. What are others? Before I do that, I have to ask this of you, because you're right here. I have you captured on the... Oh, and we already have some questions from people in chat for you, so I'll get to those in a moment.
Very cool.
He mentioned the thing that a lot of the political parties say about libertarians, and that is, and I've heard this spoken from Republicans and Democrats, and that is a semi-prevailing thought that, oh, you're a libertarian, you're not going anywhere, and voting libertarian is not going to get you anywhere, and so therefore you don't matter.
Uh-huh.
And I've heard that for quite some time. And who was the guy that was running for president as a libertarian? Gary
Johnson.
Gary Johnson. Okay. I don't think he even got invited to the debates. He may have snuck in one time, but I think he was held at arm's length.
He was. And he was both the Republican National Party and the Democratic National Party are corporations. And to have someone like Gary Johnson on stage could really pop a balloon for both of them, depending on which question is put forward. So I think that the duopoly, as I refer to it, or as most of us refer to it as, they kept him out because libertarian ideas are very dangerous to the power structure that exists on both sides of that, both sides of the same side, which they pretty much are the same thing.
Okay, Dana Thurston, you shipped me an article, and you had me reading a lot of stuff before the show tonight, and I think it's grand to expand my head. The two questions that the people in chat had were, and of course people, can be blunt with their questions. And I've never had you on the show before, so these are not meant to offend in any way. Did you vote for President Trump? Or did you vote in the presidential election?
I did. I voted for Gary Johnson.
Okay. And then number two, another person in chat said, do you know or heard of or do you read Dave Rubin?
Yes, I do.
Because apparently he's a libertarian that's on Daily Wire, I think.
And he used to be a raving leftist. He was on the Young Turks show for a while.
Oh, right. Okay. I play that cut every once in a while. See, you started as soon as you started laughing. I know you know what I was referring to. Okay, we're
any number of them, really.
Yeah, we're moving right along from that. Okay, we got 3 more minutes before the bottom of the hour break. We're talking to Dana Thurston, who is a libertarian. Now, would you describe yourself? I describe myself in promos and whatnot as a conservatarian. I am a conservative. I don't identify necessarily with the Republican Party because they've really left me just hanging so many times. I refer to myself as a conservatarian. I am conservative, but I am a little L libertarian when it comes to smaller government and more privacy. I'm kind of a privacy freak. And I'm kind of a small government freak, and that gets molded and wrapped in a big, doughy nougat shell covered with chocolate because of my weight, and that's how I present myself. So are you a big L libertarian or kind of a little L libertarian?
I still go with the little L.
Okay.
There's actually a term for what you are outside of being a constitutionalist, which they're very close to being libertarian also. Constitutionalists are fascinating people. You're what we call a minarchist, which is you believe that government is necessary, but it should be the smallest government that is possible without killing people.
Funny you should mention the Constitution. Another gentleman that I have on quite frequently is Dr. Michael Jones, who is a constitutional scholar, and I've learned a great deal just by talking to him on the radio. So I am a massive believer in the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, which is why I see the things that are trotted out in front of us these days just so sharply offensive to me. So when you define yourself or you say that you're a little L libertarian, what are some of the things about libertarians that you don't quite hang your hat on? And I should tell you, we can carry this over through the break. We got about 1 minute before the break, but you can at least start, and I'll let you know when we have to go to the break. But what is it? Is there any prevailing major philosophy about libertarians that you're not quite so cool with?
Yes. The biggest one, and the gentleman mentioned it in the tape, is the free movement of people. Okay. I am all for that. But you in the United States, we have free movement. That's great because we're all a member of this society. Okay. But when you abut a country that is like Mexico, the free movement of people disappears. We're also a welfare state, which disallows the free movement of people. And quotes on the free. So that is the one place that I have a huge disagreement with some of my more vehement libertarian friends.
Okay. There are 2 areas that libertarians and I will never, ever, ever see eye to eye. And we'll talk about that and some other things that Dana Thurston may not agree with in terms of big L libertarians. And see, this is the kind of stuff that I really enjoy. I enjoy discussions like this. We may be getting into the weeds, but I'll tell you this, the chat room also digs it as well. Oh, folks, I should tell you, the phone lines are open. If you want to ask Dana a question, you can, after the break, give us a call here, 209-284-3210. 209-284-3210. We're going to take a break and be right back. You're listening to the Bloviating Zeppelin Live and direct right here on the SHR Media Network. This is BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
For 50 years, I've seen the American people blinded by corrupt politicians, a lapdog media, and deceptive Islam. The one thing the elites fear is one man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me through Spreaker, iTunes, and SoundCloud, through SHR Media and the Western Free Radio Network, for half a century of experienced perspective on political and social issues, weekly on The Unpleasant Blind Guy. And catch me on Jeff Mitchell's EDL Radio on blogtalkradio.com. There's
no surrender, ever.
Because truth is not always pleasant.
It's your business diva here, Melanie Collette. I am inviting you to a front row seat as I discuss some of the most intriguing details of wealth and finance with today's movers and shakers in the world of business. Listen in and discover financial truths on a global, domestic, and household scale. Uncover topics that will impact your wallet today and in the future. Money Talk with Melanie airs Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. East, 2 p.m. West, right here on SHR Media and High Plains Pundit Talk Radio. You can't afford to miss it.
From a public locker inside a dilapidated Long Island rail station comes a show designed to piss off liberals using truth, facts, and ridicule. The Lid Radio Show, featuring the conservative voice from the People's Republic of New York, the Lid himself, Jeff Dunitz. Tune in every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific on the SHR Media Network. Go to shrmedia.com. At Lid Radio, we fight for the truth, justice, and a good kosher T-bone. If you don't listen, Hillary Clinton might sneak into your bedroom in her housecoat late at night and blame you for her election loss. It's the Lid Radio Show with Jeff Dunitz.
Hey girls, Carry Girl Gear is here. More and more women every day are concealed carrying, participating in competitive shooting, and getting firearms training. It's not a boys' club anymore, and we don't have to shop in their stores anymore either. Finally, a cool and unique clothing line just for women. Dope tees and hats for the patriotic concealed carry and 2A girl. So what are you waiting for? Go check out carrygirlgear.com today.
Broadcasting behind enemy lines in occupied California, a mere 2 miles from the state capital, the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show can be heard every Tuesday and Thursday night at 8 p.m. Pacific and 11 p.m. Eastern. Only on the SHR Media Network. Go to shrmedia.com to listen. You can also watch on the SHR Media Facebook page and the SHR Media YouTube channel. No goldfish were abused in the making of this ad.
Show on the SHR Media Network, Sackheads Against Tyranny. On shrmedia.com, go there quick like a bunny, 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific, every Wednesday, live and direct on the SHR Media Network, shrmedia.com. Be there.
Hey, this is Michael Wright.
And I'm Shannon Wright.
Join us for The Right Way with Shannon and Mike, Monday through Thursday from 7 to 9 a.m. right here on SHR Media.
Why are they joining us?
For fun things like sports, politics.
Oh, maybe some news and entertainment?
And all kinds of other things.
Money and recipes and events, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, so join us Monday through Thursday, 7 to 9 a.m. here on shrmedia.com.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome back to the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show, live and direct right here on the SHR Media Network. Go to shrmedia.com. That's where the chat room is. The chat room is not on YouTube. The chat room is not on Spreaker. The chat room is not on Facebook. Go to shrmedia.com. Cool people there right now chatting. And we're chatting and talking with DANA THURSTON, a libertarian. We're talking about libertarianism, talking about political philosophies, etc. As we were disappearing into the sunset just before the promos, I said something similar to, I really like libertarians, but there are two pretty large areas with which I will essentially forever disagree. And one of them is illegal immigration. And DANA THURSTON, you seem to be fairly in agreement with that. To me, the other one is drugs, because I've spent 41 years in law enforcement watching what happened when people do drugs. The corollary to that is you're on the far right coast. I'm in California. California has just legalized dope. And I can tell you quite plainly, because I have an inside baseball contact with regard to dope, is California is fucking it up by the numbers. They are screwing it. They are screwing the pooch. They're doing what any state you would think is going to do. The licensing is onerous and terrible. The requirements, rules, regulations, laws, etc. They can't tell you, the state of California can't tell you from one day to the next about very specific laws. So, DANA THURSTON, other than the immigration aspect of libertarianism, is there anything with which you and it may not be seeing quite eye to eye?
The illegal, that and a big one, and I think we talked about this through email, is America's support of Israel.
Okay.
We send money to China so that we can borrow money back from China. We said, which I think all foreign aid should stop, but I don't think there's a huge swath of libertarians who buy into the whole Palestinian thing, and that really bothers me. It's a tough situation. There are a lot of people I discuss this with on Twitter. Actually, I avoid it. I'm trying to help one kid who just puts out anti-Jewish memes, and I won't unfriend him because I'm thinking maybe I can talk him out of what I perceive as being a really hateful thread. So there's that. But those are the two places that I disagree. Pretty much everything else I agree with.
Okay.
Hey, and you brought up the drug thing, and our thought is the war on drugs almost made the drug problem worse. A lot of people were put in jail for victimless crimes. If you're smoking dope, there are people who ended up in jail for smoking dope, for poisoning their own bodies. And poison, we all drink, smoke cigars, do whatever else we do, but it was decided that marijuana, and the history behind it, I don't know how much is true, but I'm sure you've read the history as to why it was made illegal. But we don't know which story is true.
BZ's been known to drink.
What?
BZ? Yeah, I know you're surprised. I hope, God, when I said that, I hope you were sitting down, you didn't get lightheaded and kind of, feel like you're going to fall over a little bit. I hope that didn't occur.
Hey, I can't do it during the week anymore, so I'm looking forward to tomorrow night.
I'm looking forward to 10:30 over here when I zip out of the studio and go back home. One of the things.
Have a nice adult beverage.
Oh yeah. Oh, yes. Thank you very much. Two of the things that you sent to me were very interesting in terms of a political spectrum and a political profile. You made me aware of, and I'd heard this some time ago, and I've never brought it up since, like about, 2017. I spoke about this maybe once, and I'm sure nobody remembers. But there's something called the Nolan chart. And you reacquainted me with the Nolan chart. And the Nolan chart looks something like this. For folks that are watching the show on video, there's the Nolan chart. And it essentially breaks things down into 4 groups with centrists in the middle. And at the top, it kind of pigeonholes people, and it attempts, I believe, to explain people's political philosophies. At the top is libertarian, centrist, in the middle, progressive, authoritarian, and conservative. And then the Nolan chart, well, let me break this down. Nolan said essentially that there are 2 categories that inform people's political philosophies. One is economic, and the other one is personal. And I thought that was an interesting insight, but you sent me the Nolan chart not to support it, but to say essentially that the Nolan chart is krank, is screwed up. So
garbage.
If you don't believe in the Nolan chart, how do you believe political philosophies actually run?
Well, I sent you the Nelson Holtberg article also. And his postulation throughout the entire article is we've been fooled into thinking that right and left, and I was just looking at the chart, dictatorships are on the right and the left. And one of them is communism and one of them is fascism. And then everything else is in the middle. Whereas I'm informed as there's anarchy all the way, which can be destructive. If it's done wrong, of course, Noam Chomsky had the perfect definition of anarchy. It is not running through the streets, breaking things and burning things up. It is absolute cooperation between people. And his example was if we need a stoplight on a corner because people are being injured, then the neighborhood gets together and says, let's put up a stoplight. That was his kind of encapsulation of anarchy. So anarchy is on one end. And then as you go further, you get all the way to totalitarianism, which involves fascism, communism. Every bit of control is on one side and freedom is on the other. And my argument with the Nolan chart is that economic freedom, and Nolan tries to put things in a field so you can feel happy about, well, I feel good about this, but, oh, maybe I'm not so good here. The less personal freedom you have, the less they're intertwined. Economic and personal freedom are inextricably intertwined. And that's where I think the whole Nolan chart just goes off into outer space and people can feel good because they're not a complete totalitarian.
You also sent me this article by a guy named Crispin Sartwell. It was penned back in 2014. And you made me read this thing. And, well, you didn't make me read it, but I wanted to read it. And I wanted to become informed because the headline says the left-right political spectrum is bogus. One of the things that caught me in this article, and I'll put it up in chat, folks, the title of the article and the author, because I would reference it for you. One of the first things he said in the second paragraph is the left-right divide might be a division between social identities based on class or region or race or gender, but it is certainly not a clash between different political ideas. Now, is that essentially what you're trying to say also?
No. And I think I sent that one over because that explained, that's basically an anarcho-communist breakdown of what's going on. And I'll tell you, the most ridiculous thing I ever read on Twitter was someone's talking about horizontal hierarchies. And that just blew my mind. When you hear a phrase like that or read a phrase like that, it just stops you in your tracks.
Well, that's kind of what he was saying here. He was talking about hierarchies.
Right, and I have to go back and find that one. And I hope I sent you the right one because I sent the one over by Nelson Holtberg this afternoon.
I didn't get that one.
I have to go back and find what I sent you.
Okay.
But, this is what the ANCOMs try to do. They try to mix. Like one guy was saying that the United States is just like Nazi Germany, and they're on one side of the or they're the same thing on a horizontal and they make higher. It's very difficult to explain what they're talking about. But I go for the absolute left-right. There's freedom and there's not freedom. And that's basically what the whole world is. And your personal freedoms go along with your economic freedoms. You can't have economic freedom and no personal freedom. I wouldn't even know how to come up with something like that, a political system. So, and I'm just opening my email to see what garbage I sent over to you.
Well, how then, Dana Thurston, would you, in your mind, how would you typify some kind of a spectrum? Because, I don't know, maybe let's not talk about horizontal or vertical, but how would you identify some kind of a spectrum between people that would identify as on the right or identify on the left? Does it distill down basically in your mind in terms of, look, you're either for freedom or you're against freedom?
Yes, that's exactly it. However, here's where the distinction comes in. The people who are not for freedom, who want more government control, who want more taxes taken from you, they pretend that they are for freedom, but they couch freedom in a different way. That if you allow government to take over and run your life, you are free to live your life without danger.
Yep.
So, what was that bell for?
Well, you just experience anytime that somebody is speaking on the air and they make a point that is brilliant and insightful, well, then on my show you hear. And you just did.
I don't even remember what I said.
But it was brilliant and insightful.
Oh, see? Oh, I feel like the guy in Old School where I came up with something and then stand there and shake my head and go, did I just say that?
But I always ask people, I say, tell me and give me an example, a specific example of the last time that the Democrat Party made you more free. People can't tell me. Because then we start a discussion about the Constitution. Then I get into a discussion about the Bill of Rights and how the Constitution needs to be completely revamped and how the Bill of Rights was created by racists and supremacists. You cannot... That's one thing that I enjoyed that you said is libertarians can have a grand discussion. You cannot have a discussion, and sure as shit, not on social media, with anybody that's a leftist. They don't want to hear it. So discussions, perish the thought. Not going to happen.
Well, there's a fellow that I speak to on Twitter, and we've had DMs, we've had private conversations about. He's a left market anarchist.
Whoa.
Which the left market, we'd have to take an hour to discuss what they mean by left market anyway.
Yeah, that's pretty deep.
He'd have to bring up Proudhon and the rest of the original libertarians, supposedly, back from around the French Revolution. It's a fascinating history of what we've gone through. But I think most of the time when people say they're libertarian, they are American. They're modern libertarians. They are the American Libertarian Party. So that's another delineation that would have to be discussed.
You mentioned an individual to me, and again, that's why I enjoy people like you, because you get me thinking and sending me off in different directions to look at different people. You mentioned an individual who passed away just this year, as a matter of fact, at the age of 69, by the name of Guillaume Faye, F-A-Y-E. And yes. He was a French journalist guy, a writer. He was an advocate of identitarianism as part of the French New Right. He was an advocate of Heidegger, Ryer, Locke. He was, and I find this very interesting, Guillaume Faye was instrumental in positioning Islam as the nemesis of the Western world.
Yes.
You can't say that these days. You can't advocate that these days. You can't even think that these days. And so you're reading more about him. Any thoughts about this individual, and why did he perhaps appeal to you?
I think a lot of the French right came out of World War II, and they still were. And this is why Fay was disavowed by many of his fellows. And once you get into it, these guys would have 1 degree of difference, and they would start hating each other in their political philosophy. It's hilarious. But they were actually very anti-Semitic also, the French right. And Fay left that and realized that it wasn't Jews, it was actually Islam, which would be a threat to Western civilization, which I found interesting. I'm still uncomfortable reading some of these guys' philosophies, though, because there's always something disturbing that underlies what they're saying, and it takes a while to figure out what it is. But you have to read them to figure out what it is. And I'm still studying. I'm just at the beginning of finding out who this guy was.
Well,
so I'm not a Fayist.
It's like the standard idiom, I guess. The only person with the perfect political philosophy is me. And the only person who is perfect to run for president is me.
Yep.
And that is a philosophy that is carried on throughout everybody all across the fruited plain, and I understand it. But when you're talking about libertarianism, how is it, do you think, that libertarianism or libertarians, do they have the ability to get a hook into someone, and or how do they expand, or are they, I don't know, you tell me if I'm crafting this properly, are they almost sort of continuously at loggerheads with each other because there are different types of libertarians and they may differ by a sentence from another person?
Yes. This is the funniest thing of all. Actually, and if you look over the past few election cycles, I think it's the past 4 or 5, libertarians have grown from 1.5% to 3%. And I think they picked up another percent in the last, so they reached actually 4% of the vote, or 5%. So slowly but surely people are waking up to it. But that is exactly the problem, is that you get them, and you've been to Freedom Fest. You'll have a guy up there stripping on stage while he's smoking a joint, and then you'll have guys in the audience who are sitting there in suits and ties who want to discuss Hoppe and his philosophy. It's just amazing, and they will come to that one, like Fay. They'll come to that 1% difference, and all of a sudden they're your enemy, and that's a joke, and I have to find the words for it. But it's libertarians arguing, and they agree on everything except this one point, and then all of a sudden they become steadfast enemies. Most of us look past it, though, and the joke within the libertarian community is I'm the only real libertarian. So you have to have a sense of humor.
Yeah, just like I'm the only presidential candidate that's worth a damn. And I'm the only.
That's the other thing.
I'm the only person with the proper political philosophies anyway. Everybody knows that.
And I would tell you something. This is the big difference between, and I would have to say I'm on the right, because I feel I'm on the right side of the political spectrum, going towards more freedom. I think we have a much better sense of humor about just about everything than people do on the left, and it goes back to your statement earlier that you can't argue with them.
No, I think, quite frankly, leftists in general, and I can't say specifically every leftist, obviously, as a whole, they're some of the unhappiest people that I think I've ever encountered, personally or on social media. Do these people ever smile? Do they ever have a life? Do they ever get wacky and cronky? It's just, I don't know. One final question, because we got about 5 more minutes, and I don't want to keep you up past midnight. And that's this. Well, like I say, it's 5 minutes to 9 o'clock right here on the left coast, which means it's 5 minutes to midnight where you are. I think the final question is similar to this. I'm a big privacy devotee, and we've lost so much privacy since I was a little kid. There's almost no privacy to be had anymore. However, that being said, especially with social media and the things that are going on with social media, will we ever, Dana Thurston, be able to get a handle on privacy and on social media? And will we ever be able to get that genie back in the bottle? Ever?
No. It's done. And there's too much money in it. As a matter of fact, people at work, I use Brave browser, which blocks a lot of tracking and it blocks a lot of cookies and stuff like that. People laugh at me for that. They laugh at me for using DuckDuckGo, and the prevailing comment is, I'm not doing anything wrong. Why would they look at me? And it's one of the most dangerous things in the entire world to just say, I'm not doing anything wrong. What do I care? Because they can eventually say, well, you know, we think you've done something wrong, so we're going to hold you here until we go through everything you have. But it isn't. And my brother worked for the government, top security. He said they have so much data that they can't keep track of it all. Well, they're working on stuff. They've got really brilliant guys working in the government who can track all that. The genie's out of the bottle, and until the collapsitarians get their way and everything burns to the ground, we're not going to get it back. Collapsitarians.
I agree with that. There was a time when I thought that we could go back somehow, and what you said to the people is that, okay, you can look at anything that you want. I'm not guilty of anything. When you said that, the first thing I thought of was that Pastor Martin Niemöller quote. And it goes, first they came for the socialists, and I did not speak out because I was not a socialist. Then they came for the trade unionists, and I did not speak out because I was not a trade unionist. Then they came for the Jews, and I did not speak out because I was not a Jew. And then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak for me.
Yep.
That is how I view privacy.
And that goes along also. I read a brilliant thing from these people, a lot of my followers. She said, you people want to take guns away from everybody, but just last week you said the government was building concentration camps on the border. And that struck me. She gained 3,000 followers on Twitter after that, just for the simplicity of that thought that dispelled everything on two arguments that the left was making about concentration camps and guns. So I thought that was brilliant.
What do you think? Okay, I lied. There's one more question. What do you think may be the future for libertarians?
You know what? I think we're gaining ground. You have, and if anyone's listening and they're on Twitter, look for the Hoteps. These are a group of black guys and women who are absolutely pro-American, pro-free market, pro-responsibility. I think there is a growing number of people who are starting to see the wisdom of don't buy the mainstream media narrative, either for the Republicans or the Democrats. Think for yourself. So I think we're gonna make advancements that way, slowly but surely.
Okay, it's just about time for a break. Dana Thurston, I thank you very much for being here tonight. You're a web developer, a musician, a mixer, a producer, the Allstonians, the Sprained Ankles. I like that spinoff. So
the songwriter is brilliant.
Where can you be found on Twitter? Or excuse me, where can you be found on social media? I just happen to find you on Twitter.
You know what? I left Facebook about 3 years ago. I was dating a woman, and she said she's going to give it a break for a month. I got off for a month and never went back.
Okay.
So Twitter is just about my only thing right now, although a music producer's trying to get me to join Instagram or one of those other ones. I don't keep track of them. I just think Twitter is a fun place. You can be outraged and laugh within 2 seconds.
Yeah, it is kind of wonky. It is kind of weird that way. If you want to find him and have a conversation, what's your Twitter handle?
Twitter handle is @ThurstonDana, and I go by the name of Free Rides Sikorsky.
Okay, I'm glad you brought that up. Where does that come from? You knew I was going to ask you that.
This is my favorite. Igor Sikorsky invented the helicopter.
Right.
Pinochet used to throw communists out of helicopters. So a lot of people might not laugh, but that is the inside joke there.
Okay. Hey, my good friend, want to ride in my helicopter?
Exactly. I mean,
okay.
As a matter of, I lost one. I had a huge argument with some ANCOM, anarcho-communist, and I said, maybe you need a free helicopter ride, and the kid just went off like you wouldn't believe.
Okay, so apparently they got it. Not too many others would. Okay, Dana Thurston, I got to have you back. Thank you for staying up so late. I greatly appreciate it, and thank you. And okay, I lied again. There is going to be a final question. I told you before the show, I said the hour is going to go faster than you could possibly imagine. Was that true?
Absolutely true.
Okay.
We didn't even get into a lot of the stuff that I still have to find that article I sent you that you were reading.
Okay.
There were so many things that we could talk about that it isn't funny.
Okay. So that begs the next question. See, I'm a continuous liar. Would you be willing to come back?
Anytime you want.
Okay.
This was fun as anything.
Okay. And I'm looking at your Twitter, and it looks like you can be found also on danathurston.com. So apparently you still have a website?
Yeah, I haven't updated it for a while.
Okay.
But that was like my resume for finding jobs.
Okay, cool. Dana Thurston, thanks for being here tonight. And we will definitely have you back. The folks in chat enjoyed the hell out of you. So, folks, we're going to take a break. We're going to be right back. And, we're going to do an ass load of politics.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Hey, this is Michael Wright.
And I'm Shannon Wright.
Join us for The Right Way with Shannon and Mike, Monday through Thursday from 7 to 9 a.m. right here on SHR Media.
Why are they joining us?
For fun things like sports, politics.
Oh, maybe some news and entertainment?
And all kinds of other things.
Money and recipes and events, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, so join us Monday through Thursday, 7 to 9 a.m. here on shrmedia.com.
From a public locker inside a dilapidated Long Island rail station comes a show designed to piss off liberals using truth, facts, and ridicule. The Lid Radio Show, featuring the conservative voice from the People's Republic of New York, the Lid himself, Jeff Dunitz. Tune in every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific on the SHR Media Network. Go to shrmedia.com. At Lid Radio, we fight for the truth, justice, and a good kosher T-bone. If you don't listen, Hillary Clinton might sneak into your bedroom in her housecoat late at night and blame you for her election loss. It's the Lid Radio Show with Jeff Dunitz.
Hey girls, Carry Girl Gear is here. More and more women every day are concealed carrying, participating in competitive shooting, and getting firearms training. It's not a boys' club anymore, and we don't have to shop in their stores anymore either. Finally, a cool and unique clothing line just for women. Dope tees and hats for the patriotic concealed carry and 2A girl. So what are you waiting for? Go check out carrygirlgear.com today.
It's your business diva here, Melanie Collette. I am inviting you to a front row seat as I discuss some of the most intriguing details of wealth and finance with today's movers and shakers in the world of business. Listen in and discover financial truths on a global, domestic, and household scale. Uncover topics that will impact your wallet today and in the future. Money Talk with Melanie airs Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. East, 2 p.m. West, right here on SHR Media and High Plains Pundit Talk Radio. You can't afford to miss it.
New show on the SHR Media Network, Sackheads Against Tyranny. On shrmedia.com. Go there quick like a bunny, 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific, every Wednesday. Live and direct on the SHR Media Network. shrmedia.com. Be there.
For 50 years, I've seen the American people blinded by corrupt politicians, a lapdog media, and deceptive Islam. The one thing the elites fear is one man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me through Spreaker, iTunes, and SoundCloud, through SHR Media and the Western Free Radio Network, for half a century of experienced perspective on political and social issues, weekly on The Unpleasant Blind Guy. And catch me on Jeff Mitchell's EDL Radio on blogtalkradio.com. There's
no surrender, ever.
Because truth is not always pleasant.
Broadcasting behind enemy lines in occupied California, a mere 2 miles from the state capital, the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show can be heard every Tuesday and Thursday night at 8 p.m. Pacific and 11 p.m. Eastern. Only on the SHR Media Network. Go to shrmedia.com to listen. You can also watch on the SHR Media Facebook page and the SHR Media YouTube channel. No goldfish were abused in the making of this ad. Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, it's the second hour already. The second and final show of the week. This is kind of strange. I'm happy as hell about it. Oh, and Dana Thurston's in chat. Great. Great to see you in chat, sir. But in California, while everyone has been baking and roasting on the right coast, today it was about, I don't know, in Sacramento. I literally, this is actually a studio. This is not my basement, okay? We pay for this. And I actually have to drive like a half hour to get here in the studio. And customarily in Sacramento, this is where the studio is. We are literally 2 miles east of the belly of the beast, and I'm not making that up. But in Sacramento, it's been damn nice the past week or so. We had a couple of days of, and we'll hit 100. We'll probably hit 100 next week, but the temperatures have been really nice. And I don't know if you were around or if anyone remembers last year in the studio, and I was known to make comments of it. It was hot as hell in here because the air conditioner wasn't working. And a week ago, or maybe 2 weeks ago, I said, now that it's been fixed, oh boy, you could hang meat in here. That's the way BZ likes it. That's the way I like it. And Dana Thurston is in chat, and he says, hey, thanks, BZ. You gained a loyal listener, and I'm out to find Dr. Michael Jones. Dr. Michael Jones, by the way, Dana Thurston, if you want to find him on your favorite search engine, he is known as the Underground Professor. So if you look for the Underground Professor and then put Michael Jones in there somewhere, you'll probably be able to find him. Literally a constitutional scholar. This guy is smart as a whip, and I have him on and we talk all sorts of constitutional issues, plural. However, having said that, these days, everyone is up in arms about shootings. And we talked about that on the Sackhead show last night. We went into a number of issues, and I spoke about it on Tuesday night as well. And if you recall, one of the things I said is the firearm is a tool. And I had the unique ability, the privilege, I say, as teaching the two most dangerous, I guess you could say, paradigms in all of law enforcement, guns and cars. And I taught both of those things for literally years. I was the range master for our 2,000-plus deputy sheriff's department here in California. And I was also the supervisor, not just for the range, but I was also supervisor for our EVOC unit, which is the Emergency Vehicle Operations Course. So for law enforcement, guns and cars, cars and guns, guns and cars, cars and guns will always kill cops. And what I said in terms of being a range master is the same thing I said in terms of the automobile. The automobile is a tool, respect it. The firearm is a tool, respect it. In terms of how we view firearms in general, the firearm is a tool. So I ask this consistent question, and people will not answer me. Now, I know that you folks here are very intelligent. Thanks for listening to me live. Thanks for truckers. You send me emails every once in a while telling me that you occasionally listen live and you listen podcast. Thanks, folks, for listening to me in podcast. I grandly appreciate it. But I will always consistently say the firearm is a tool. That's all it is. It's an inanimate, heavy object, and the responsibility of the utilization of the tool is up to the person that wields that tool. Period. End of fucking statement. So the question that I will consistently posit is, since the 50s or the 60s, etc., what changed? The tool or society? And you know the answer to that. Leftists will not tell you. They do not want to address that issue. So I don't know whether this is fortuitous, whether this is evil, whether this is God coming down and going, boom, I'm just going to make a point for you stupid people in the United States. Because somebody made a point in the United States these days. I have always said, and I have known from intimate experiences in 41 years of law enforcement, that evil exists, and I've looked at evil in the face many, many, many times. All the way from sodomists of little children, people who raped babies, sodomized children, killed people, and I have looked, and I know what evil looks like. Evil exists. Some people are put on this planet for no other reason than to kill them. And I fervently believe, and okay, send me all the hate mail you want. My mother-in-law said this one time, is that some people are put here on the planet to exist as nothing more than examples of what not to do. And I completely believe that too. BZ, God, you're being circuitous. Get to the damn point. People are evil. Evil exists. It exists within individuals. They don't need guns to be evil. They can do it with knives, too. From KTLA, Channel 5 in Los Angeles. Pure hate apparently drove a man today who went on an Orange County stabbing robbery rampage that killed 4 and injured 2. So, what is the definition, folks, of a mass killing? A mass killing is 4 or more people killed. Well, people say that is in mass shootings. Well, there are mass killings as well. This guy is a mass killer. A man apparently full of anger stabbed with a knife 4 people to death and wounded 2 others in a robbery rampage that started in Garden Grove and stretched into Santa Ana before he was arrested yesterday, the Garden Grove Police Department said. You'll enjoy this. The suspect was identified today as 33-year-old Zachary Castaneda, a documented gang member, police told KTLA. Authorities were still trying to contact the families of the victims and piece together a motive for the attacks. Garden Grove Police Lieutenant Carl Whitney said, "It's just pure hate what this guy did. We know this guy was full of anger, and he harmed a lot of people tonight. 3 of the victims killed were identified Thursday afternoon." Officials say, I'm not going to name these names. That's immaterial, and they don't need to be named. 4 people needlessly lost their lives tonight from this savage suspect. The rampage started at 4 p.m. with 3 robberies in Garden Grove. The victim told police the suspect was armed with a gun, that he fled the scene in a silver Mercedes. And then there was another robbery. 3 minutes later, there was another one that was robbed. A guy was pumping gas, was stabbed in the back. His nose was nearly severed completely. The suspect was armed with 2 large machete-type knives. And he got on the freeway and he disappeared. When the officers were handcuffing him, customers inside the store ran out and told the detectives the suspect had just stabbed a security guard. Police said the attacker had disarmed Parker, took his handgun, then stabbed him multiple times. And the victim later died at a hospital. So that's 4 dead, 2 wounded in Southern California stabbings. Do you need a gun to be evil? No, the gun is a tool. What is a knife? It's the same thing. Today, in New York City, this is from Channel 4, New York. Man stabs wife to death in front of horrified patrons at New York City salon, police say. But there's something very interesting that isn't in this article that I'm going to tell you, because leftists have insisted now that I tell you, because they're all about the identity. A man was taken into police custody after police say he fatally stabbed his wife multiple times in the back at a nail salon where she worked, shocking witnesses outside the business in Queens who filmed part of the horrific attack on their phones. The 39-year-old stabbing suspect walked into the spa at 37th and Jackson Heights, attacked the 35-year-old victim from behind, witnesses and police said. After the stabbing, witnesses said the man embraced the body of his dying victim. Did he need a gun? No. Did he use a knife? Yes. The gun is a tool. So is the knife. Here's what people won't tell you. Purposely. This guy was black. But you're not going to hear about that. But wait. There's more. This is from CBS Local in Pittsburgh. Today. Double stabbing. 1 killed, another injured in downtown Pittsburgh. 2 women were stabbed, one fatally, right in front of a police officer late Thursday morning in the middle of downtown Pittsburgh. The incident was reported about 11:40 a.m. at 6th and Smithfield at Port Authority bus shelters. The scene isn't far from a Rite Aid Burlington coat factory and the entrance to the Duquesne Club. According to witnesses, at least one of the victims may have been wearing a hijab, a garment worn by Muslim women. The name of the woman killed has not been released. According to Pittsburgh Police Chief Scott Schubert, a Zone 1 police officer was patrolling the area when he noticed a woman sleeping under a bus shelter. The officer turned his patrol car around to check on the woman. Chief Schubert said as the officer was talking with her, the suspect came around his back and struck the woman with a knife. The suspect then turned around and stabbed a second woman. Police say the officer jumped into action, disarming and subduing the suspect. The officer took immediate action, but put the person down on the ground and got him in custody, and then immediately started first aid on the female. What they also won't tell you about that is that the suspect was black. Now, customarily, these wouldn't be issues, would they? Does anybody really care, truly, about anyone else's paint job? If you're a smart individual and you're not a racist, the answer would be, of course not. A paint job is just that. It's a melanin count. Period. Next stupid question. But it's all about racism, and it's all about making sure that only certain personnel are made aware of certain things. So you have to ask yourself, what is this? Right after we have these shootings, 2 major stabbings in one day, 1 yesterday, 2 on the East Coast, 1 on the West Coast. What does that prove, BZ? Where's the linkage? Evil exists. Evil people. If you remove all the guns from everyone on this entire damn planet, people will find ways to kill each other. Guns, rocks, automobiles. I used to tell my trainees, your car is the best deadly weapon you could possibly have. If someone is firing their weapon at us and we have the ability to go for our guns, stop the car, get out and return fire, I'm going to fire your ass if you're driving if you don't floor the car and run them over. Because it's not a matter of what force you use in terms of a deadly weapon. A firearm is a deadly weapon. So is a car. And cars have been used and will be used in the future by evil people to kill others. I think those are my points. Evil exists. So it's not about the tool. Welcome, White Mamba. Good to see you here in chat. The knife is a tool. The gun is a tool. I've not been real happy with Judge Andrew Napolitano these days, but he happened to pen an article that I think even he had to agree with, and his article is talking about the recent shootings and various amendments. He said, last weekend's mass murders in El Paso, Texas and Dayton, Ohio have produced a flood of words about everything from gun control to mental illness to white nationalism. Most of these words have addressed the right to keep and bear arms as if it was a gift from the government. It isn't. The Supreme Court has twice ruled in the past 11 years that the right to keep and bear arms is an individual pre-political liberty. Stop. Who gives you rights in the Constitution? Do rights come from government? Or do your rights come from God? Correct. They don't come from government. Look in the Constitution. The Supreme Court has ruled twice in the past 11 years that the right to keep and bear arms is an individual, listen to this because this is highly important, pre-political liberty. That is the highest category of liberty recognized in the law. It is akin to the freedom of thought, speech, and personality. That means that the court has recognized that the framers of the Constitution did not bestow this right upon us. Rather, they recognized its pre-existence as an extension of our natural human right to self-defense, and they forbade government, state and federal, from infringing upon it. The government doesn't, the Constitution doesn't give you rights per se. The government restricts what the Constitution and the Bill of Rights restrict what the government can do. And that's the point. That's the beauty of the Constitution. It would be exquisitely unfair, profoundly unconstitutional, and historically un-American for the rights of law-abiding folks to surrender that rifle you own legally and use safely because some other folks have used that same weapon criminally to be impaired in the name of public safety. Okay, in this case, I have to say, Judge Napolitano gets it. But thank God, I would expect no less. It would also be irrational. A person willing to kill innocents and be killed by the police while doing so surely would have no qualms about violating a state or a federal law that prohibited the general ownership of the weapon he was about to use. Hello, duh, direct from the lips of Captain Obvious. With all of this as background and the country anguishing over the mass deaths of innocents, the feds and the states face a choice between a knee-jerk but popular restriction of some form of gun ownership and the rational and sound realization that more guns in the hands of those properly trained means less crime and more safety. Next Tuesday night, I'm going to go in depth about red flag laws because I have some definite thoughts about red flag laws. California has essentially always had a red flag law, and I can go into that in just a moment, but I see we have a caller. Mike, go ahead. What's on your mind, sir?
You're talking about the Constitution and what is said by the courts, but remember what Obama said about it. He said, and he did say this. He said it's a government. It's a document of negative liberties. It tells you what the government cannot do to you, or something to that effect. Which he was right, but he was couching it in terms of, well, I want to change it to tell us what the government can do for you. You know, that's what the liberals have always wanted to do with the Constitution. That's what this whole living and breathing thing is all about, BZ.
Well, it is. The Constitution speaks about it and delineates specifically where we get our rights, and that the government, it proscribes the government from doing certain things. We've had Supreme Court justices. Who's the guy that passed away recently? He's from Sacramento, and I should know his name. Stevens. Justice Stevens passed away recently. But just after he left the Supreme Court in 2018, I believe, he said that his fundamental philosophy is that we need to and we should have completely eliminated the Second Amendment. And this from a SCOTUS jurist. My first thought was, YFKM, are you fucking kidding me? And I wonder how that philosophy, do you think, folks, that philosophy somehow managed to creep in to any decisions that he made as a jurist? My answer would be, oh, fuck yes. So any decisions that were 5-4, 4-5, or something like that on the cusp, I wonder how many decisions he screwed up over the years. We're going to have to go to a break in a second. The other thing that I'd like to point out, Mike, since you brought this up, is Ruth Bader Ginsburg. There is audio of her saying new countries, or those countries looking to form or craft a new or a different constitution, should specifically not look to the U.S. Constitution as an example of what to do or what to be, specifically because it limits government. It doesn't expand government. It doesn't expand your rights. It limits government. And again, she's still around. I don't know how many blood packs she's sucking up right now, how many machines she's attached to, immaterial. But do you think possibly that her philosophy is not somehow injected into her decisions? And again, from the very lips of Captain Obvious. Yes.
Well, sure. I mean,
John Martin in chat just said, let's ban humidity. Boom, done.
Well, sure. I mean, you look at most of these liberal justices, not just Ginsburg and Sotomayor and Kagan, but all these liberal justices that have, and judges that have ruled against the president in whatever, take your pick, whatever case you're talking about, are ruling against the Constitution in most cases. And they believe that they should look at, all kinds of things like, laws from other countries or international law in terms of adjudicating cases here in the United States, which is not what the framers wanted. The framers specifically said the Constitution is what we should be looking at, not international law or laws of other countries, the Constitution.
You make a good point on that one. You do make a good point. Folks, I'm going to have to go to a break. Thanks for calling in, Mike. I greatly appreciate it. When we come back, I have some more things. I have a couple of audio cuts from individuals who are kind of stepping off the Democrat Party train. I'll play those and a lot more politics just to come. Please come right back.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
For 50 years, I've seen the American people blinded by corrupt politicians, a lapdog media, and deceptive Islam. The one thing the elites fear is one man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me through Spreaker, iTunes, and SoundCloud, through SHR Media and the Western Free Radio Network, for half a century of experienced perspective on political and social issues, weekly on The Unpleasant Blind Guy. And catch me on Jeff Mitchell's EDL Radio on blogtalkradio.com. There's
no surrender, ever.
Because truth is not always pleasant.
It's your business diva here, Melanie Collette. I am inviting you to a front row seat as I discuss some of the most intriguing details of wealth and finance with today's movers and shakers in the world of business. Listen in and discover financial truths on a global, domestic, and household scale. Uncover topics that will impact your wallet today and in the future. Money Talk with Melanie airs Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. East, 2 p.m. West, right here on SHR Media and High Plains Pundit Talk Radio. You can't afford to miss it.
From a public locker inside a dilapidated Long Island rail station comes the show designed to piss off liberals using truth, facts, and ridicule. The Lid Radio Show, featuring the conservative voice from the People's Republic of New York, the Lid himself, Jeff Dunitz. Tune in every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific on the SHR Media Network. Go to shrmedia.com. At Lid Radio, we fight for the truth, justice, and a good kosher T-bone. If you don't listen, Hillary Clinton might sneak into your bedroom in her housecoat late at night and blame you for her election loss. It's the Lid Radio Show with Jeff Dunitz.
Hey girls, Carry Girl Gear is here. More and more women every day are concealed carrying, participating in competitive shooting, and getting firearms training. It's not a boys' club anymore, and we don't have to shop in their stores anymore either. Finally, a cool and unique clothing line just for women. Dope tees and hats for the patriotic concealed carry and 2A girl. So what are you waiting for? Go check out carrygirlgear.com today.
Broadcasting behind enemy lines in occupied California, a mere 2 miles from the state capitol, the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show can be heard every Tuesday and Thursday night at 8 p.m. Pacific and 11 p.m. Eastern. Only on the SHR Media Network. Go to shrmedia.com to listen. You can also watch on the SHR Media Facebook page and the SHR Media YouTube channel. No goldfish were abused in the making of this ad.
Show on the SHR Media Network, Sackheads Against Tyranny. On shrmedia.com, go there quick like a bunny, 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific every Wednesday, live and direct on the SHR Media Network, shrmedia.com. Be there.
Hey, this is Michael Wright.
And I'm Shannon Wright.
Join us for The Right Way with Shannon and Mike, Monday through Thursday from 7 to 9 a.m. right here on SHR Media.
Why are they joining us?
For fun things like sports, politics.
Oh, maybe some news and entertainment?
And all kinds of other things.
Money and recipes and events, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, so join us Monday through Thursday, 7 to 9 a.m. here on shrmedia.com.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. This is the final 25. The final 25 minutes of the show. As I told Dana Thurston, and again, thanks Dana for being on for the first hour. I had a great time. I hope you guys did too. He said he'll come back, and I would like to have him back because there's a ton more stuff we could have talked about. That's proper grammar. English, isn't it? A ton more stuff that we could talk about. In chat, I found this interesting. John Martin in chat said, hey, let's just ban humanity. Boom, done. That made me think immediately of this story. It's just, this is one of those things where leftists, you don't get it. And you really, I believe, an inordinate amount of leftists do not grok human nature. Do not grok humanity itself. This is the headline. Rosanna Arquette says FBI told her to lock Twitter account after blowback from white shame tweet. Actress says she was targeted by toxic and very vicious people after tweeting she was... Wait a minute. Do I have a producer? Let's find out. After she said she was ashamed of being white. Now, that wouldn't lead anyone to make any kind of a rejoinder to her, would it? No, of course not. Actress Rosanna Arquette said Thursday the FBI advised her to make her Twitter account private because online critics lambasted her on Wednesday for tweeting she was ashamed of being white and privileged. Rosanna Arquette, I have one immediately thought that comes to mind. If you're so ashamed, then go the Rachel Dolezal route. Or just leave this astral plane because you don't want to be here. Apparently, that indicates to me that you're not much interested in living because you're evil and white. So, hey, maybe it's time to just take yourself out. I'm not specifically advocating suicide, but I am saying, why did you say that? Because that's the first thought that comes to my mind is take a big cup of STFU and don't write something like that. And then not expect that people are going to react to something as stupid as that. If you're ashamed of being white, do something about it. That kind of tells me you're ashamed of living. And if you're ashamed of being privileged, then shut the fuck up, Rosanna Arquette, and give away all your belongings, let the homeless into your house, vacate your various accounts, checking, savings, and give it all away. Because that's what a person who was white and privileged would really do. But you're not going to do that, are you? Because, frankly, you like that lifestyle. I got to do this. This came out of nowhere. I found this, and I know for a fact this falls under.
It's time for happy stories and good times.
This was great. I came across it, and I knew instantly that I had to tell you guys about this tonight. Anybody within the sound of my voice know who actor Danny Trejo is? If you were to look at a picture of him, you'd go, I've seen this guy in so many movies as an extra or a bad guy. He was in the movie Heat, for example, with Robert De Niro and, oh, God, I can't remember the other guy that was the big guy, Al Pacino, that was in Heat, which was actually a great movie. By the way, the movie Heat was the inspiration for the Hollywood shootout in Los Angeles with Matassa Renu and Phillips. I don't know if you guys remember that, but they were inspired by the big shootout in downtown Los Angeles in the movie Heat. Anyway, actor Danny Trejo of Machete fame pulls young boy from overturned car. This is great. I love this. Hollywood actor Danny Trejo, this guy is 75 years old. He's in his 70s. Holy crap, he's pushing 80. known for his tough guy roles in such films as Machete, helped rescue a young boy who was trapped in a car that overturned in a Los Angeles traffic collision yesterday, Wednesday. Trejo, 75, told television station KABC that he was on his way to an auto mechanic in LA's Silmar neighborhood when he saw a motorist run a red light and crash into another car, which flipped over onto its roof in the intersection. The boy, strapped into his car seat in the back of the car, and his grandmother, who had been driving, were both trapped in the overturned, partially crushed vehicle. Trejo and another bystander, a woman who identified herself as Monica Jackson, teamed up to free the child before emergency personnel arrived on the scene. They said Jackson crawled in on one side of the car to unbuckle the boy from his car seat, and Trejo pulled the child out from the other side. That was great. I love to read stuff like that. I think that's a wonderful thing. This is not so wonderful. This just occurred. And it makes me, as I say, leftists don't know when to stop pushing. And this just came out. This just happened today. The GOP, I think, has finally had enough. I believe conservatives have finally had enough. Right-thinking individual, not just right-thinking, proper-thinking individuals have had enough. And the GOP has decided that it's about time to drop the hammer, especially on Twitter, because Mitch McConnell had his campaign account frozen. Now, you may say to yourself, okay, didn't we see this coming? But when I tell you why, for those of you who may have been frozen out of Twitter or Facebook or some other social media form by Twitter or Facebook for something that you wrote, which, didn't advocate the killing of hamsters or squirrels, Republicans are going to war with Twitter after the platform froze the Mitch McConnell re-election account this week because the campaign posted a video of threats directed at the Senate Majority Leader, just as President Trump is planning a separate crackdown on left-wing social media bias. The National Republican Senatorial Committee on Thursday said it won't spend money on Twitter until the situation is adequately addressed. A top official with the Republican National Committee also said the RNC and the Trump campaign would not spend money on Twitter until they address this disgusting bias. Okay, what that means is this. Mitch McConnell has been getting threats. And so when his campaign Twitter account posted to illustrate the threats that Mitch McConnell was receiving, the victim of the threats was suspended by Twitter in what rational world does this make any sense? And so I would agree, it's pretty much time to go to war. I think it's time to recognize that social media isn't just a platform, if you will. It has been proven, in my opinion, to be an editor, therefore a publisher, and in an if-then equation, if it's that, then it's also subject to all the parameters of the law. Lawsuits, libel, slander, etc. Leftists don't know when to stop. They lack that capability. I, being a little L libertarian and a big supporter of the First Amendment, this grates on my nerves. But I think all that myself and people like me have been asking, hoping for over the years is just treat people equally. If you suspend people for one thing, see, again, leftists don't understand, in my opinion, humanity. They don't understand humans. Why does discipline exist? Discipline exists to change behavior. If you don't like a certain behavior, then you administer discipline. But before you administer discipline, you must let those subject to potential discipline know what the rules are. Twitter and social media and Facebook will lay out rules for you, but when you're suspended, they won't tell you what rule you violated, because that gives you the ability to be more specific and state, I did not violate that specific rule or regulation that you have. So, to me, that tells me that Twitter and Facebook suspending people isn't about correcting behavior. It is instead all about being punitive. And there is a massive difference between the two. Twitter and Facebook couldn't give a fuck less about you if you're a conservative, because there is no equanimity in social media. Leftists and their ilk, Democrats and the American media maggots, are not disciplined in an equal fashion as conservatives are. And this newest instance proves just that. McConnell was not advocating for violence. He was illustrating the threats that he received, and for that, he gets suspended. Is that an attempt to change behavior by social media? Fuck no. That's an attempt again and again and again, all of you people that are in chat that have had this happen to you. And what has happened to you is it's just punitive. That's all it's for. It's just to be punitive. There's another article that just came out. And I think this is a heralding of things to come. We keep saying, we keep hoping, people on the right, or conservatives, I should say, that someday there will be justice. There will be equanimity for all. And as I've said, not just in terms of race, but everything. No one is equal until everyone is equal. That's obvious. Facts and evidence. Escaping the fat and hairy lips of BZ, along with Captain Obvious as well. But there is little equanimity, certainly from D.C. May there be in the future? Perhaps. Here's an article. This just came out. Who are the people? Tom Fitton and Judicial Watch got this. This article, however, is from The Federalist. Where this leads, I'm not sure. But again, I must continue to say this. It illustrates, I believe, that this is a continuing soft coup in the United States of America, promulgated by leftists, Democrats, and the American media maggots, with the FBI, CIA, and NSA certainly complicit in all of it. Oh, and the DOJ, I can't leave them out. A soft coup against a presidential nominee, a president-elect, and a sitting president. This article, new documents released, notes from FBI interviews with DOJ official Bruce Orr. The FBI released 34 pages of notes known as 302s. Stop. Now, 302 sounds, I was with the FBI. The 302 is nothing more than a piece of paper. It's Form 302, and that's where you have a narrative. Basically, it's a narrative, okay? It's nothing shocking. Someday I'll tell you the difference between 302s and inserts. I didn't say that. The FBI released 34 pages of notes, known as 302s, of its 2016 and 2017 interviews with Bruce Orr, the DOJ official who met with the British dossier author Christopher Steele and opposition research firm Fusion GPS and Glenn Simpson. Orr's wife, just coinkydink, Orr's wife, Nellie Orr, worked for Fusion GPS throughout the 2016 presidential campaign when they were hired by the Hillary Clinton campaign and the Democrat National Convention. The FBI, though, was sued by the watchdog group Judicial Watch, Tom Fitton, to comply with their requests for access to the notes via a FOIA, Freedom of Information Act request. And the documents are available. You can go to Judicial Watch and look at them there. And there are, of course, redactions in those as well. But this is going somewhere. I believe this is most def going somewhere. This is an individual. What do I have? Okay, I got 9 more minutes before the show. I think I got enough time. I hear things that are going on the internet, and I bring them to you to, in my opinion, illustrate that I think OMB has a fairly decent chance at 2020 because certain select personnel are unhappy with the Democrats these days. I would indicate that this is one clear unhappy camper.
I want you to pay attention to this lesson that I'm going to give you right now. It's called Divide and Conquer. Why are liberals so hell-bent on stopping blacks and Latinos from joining the Republican Party, the conservative movement? Shouldn't you want to be involved in both sides of the aisle so both sides of the aisles have to reflect what's going on with your people? There's a real reason why they don't want you on both sides of the aisle. That's why every minority you see that's with the liberal movement, always, no matter what, they say the same shit. And I mean verbatim. See, how they divide the people is simple. They limit your options when they keep you to one side of the fence. They can pretend like they have your back when, in all honesty, they don't. And they continue to put these tokens in front of you who are actually selling you out. Without you being on both sides of the fence, you have no real political power. So they keep you pigeonholed to one of them so they can control your political influence. The Democrats are not our friends. They're truly our enemies. Wake up. I want you to pay attention to this lesson.
Listen to this.
Get you pigeonholed to one of them so they can control your political influence. The Democrats are not our friends. They're truly our enemies. Wake up.
The Democrats are not our friends. They're truly our enemies. Wake up. And I think more people are waking up. Here's another individual who speaks the truth. And for that, she is absolutely excoriated. Oh, she is such a sellout.
America was built on the backs of immigrants. We can't turn our backs on them now. I've seen this movie before. My name is Candace Owens, and you are watching Illegal is the New Black. DACA, DACA, DACA. Hola, mis ilegales. There's been a lot of chatter about you guys lately. I mean, the left shut down the government for a day, claiming that they wanted to make sure you got a good deal. That's got to feel good, doesn't it? Knowing that liberals will literally not pay our American troops to make sure that you are taken care of first. Look, I don't want you to take this the wrong way, but they don't care about you. Not even a little bit. You see, what the left does really well is identifying groups of people that they can create an entire victim narrative around. Someone on their team goes, hey, that's a really big group of people. If we pretend to care about them, do you think we can make them vote for us forever?
That's funny. Isn't that what BZ has been saying for years? Oh, that's right, Candace Owens, and she says it too.
It's that simple. I know, because they did it to us black people first. You know how your mom used to warn you not to take candy from strangers? Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi are the strangers that you do not want to take candy from. Black people took the candy back in the 60s, and you can see how that worked out for us. First, they proliferated a welfare state,
Bingo.
which systematically destroyed our families. Then they...
Okay, stop right there. I'm not even going to play the rest of that. Because we were talking yesterday, and I spoke with Ken McClinton on his show on Monday about this, and I spoke at length about this on Tuesday. Boys are broken, and boys are broken because they are fatherless. The black community has a massive contingent of fatherless boys. Same for the Caucasoids as well, because of divorce, etc. When boys are not supported, the yin and the yang of it is they need moms for the yin and they need dads for the yang. And then you're able to create a well-rounded individual. But the young males are corking off these days because they have no one to help them, guide them, mentor them, escort them through all the hazards of life. And further, to be male is to be hated upon anyway. That's a massive issue for another day. The new issue, God, someone's like, where do I go? Jerry the Hut Nadler has decided that he's going to revisit Kavanaugh because he was not able to make sure that Kavanaugh did not get installed into SCOTUS. So he has decided upon himself that he's going to go for a entirely new series of subpoenas to prove that Kavanaugh's a bad guy and to remove him. And you'll notice a current theme or a meme these days as well. And it would appear maybe leftists have given up on Russia. That remains to be seen. Maybe they've given up on Mueller. That remains to be seen. But what they're doubling down on now, and they... OMB, Orange Man Bad, Donald John Trump, the guy with the dead orange cat on his head, is Teflon. He's the Teflon Don. Nothing has stuck to him, so now it's white supremacist Donald Trump, and absent something else coming around the corner, and there will invariably be something. From now until November of next year, he's a white supremacist. I have said so, therefore it simply must be true. Here's a question that I have for everybody. Little Chucky Schumer has been in office for 38 years. San Fran Nancy Pelosi, has been in office for 32 years. Maxine Waters, Mad Max, the individual with a mouth larger than the intake on an A6 Crusader, she's been in office for 28 years. Joe Biden has been in office for 44 years. They all blame all of America's problems on OMB, who hasn't been in office but 3 years? How weird. These are different and challenging times, are they not? And the answer is, of course.
Monsieur has been locked!
Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, thanks for listening to the Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon, live and direct right here on the SHR Media Network. If you want to contact me, you can find me on Twitter at BZEP, at BZEP. Very simple. Just 3 little letters. Okay, there's me lying again. You can also go to my website at bloviatingzeppelin.net. I'm going to have a great story to tell everybody about next Tuesday when I come back to do the radio show. Promotional consideration is by the Lockheed Martin Skunk Works and also by the Boeing Company. If it ain't Boeing, I ain't going.
To the folks that I know,
and also Pratt & Whitney Engines Thrust.
I won't be long.
You can trust. Also, to the Allahu Snack Bar, a little bit of Muhammad in every bite. Tiaras are by My Little Pony. And of course, thanks to my personal KC-135 Kettle One refueling team contingent with whom I will be consorting in less than an hour. Thanks to Dana Thurston for being here tonight. Thanks to you for listening. Thanks for everybody being in chat. The chat room keeps expanding every show. God bless you all. Have a great weekend. See you next Tuesday.
Everybody quiet down now and get some sleep.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, Mama. Good night, Ben.
Good night, everyone. Good night, Mama. Good night, Daddy.
Good night, children.
Good night, Daddy. Good night, Elizabeth.
Good night, John Boy. Good night, Jim Bob. Good night, Jim Bob.
Good night, Jim Bob.
What's going on? I was asleep. What's everybody doing?
Good night,
Jim Bob.
Good night, and good luck.